Hey, everybody. So, today I want to talk about boundaries and how to hold them in a compassionate, values based way. And I want to talk a little bit about how two different therapy modalities can help around this. One is acceptance and commitment therapy, which I have lots of blog posts about if you want to read more, and dialectical behavioral therapy, which I also write a good bit about. Both of these therapy modalities can really guide us and help us figure out how to hold good boundaries in our relationships. So today I'm going to give you a few tips on how to do this. And again, I'm writing a blog post that has more information as well. So, boundaries. What is a boundary? This gets used a lot in popular culture, and I often see it used in ways I'm not so sure are really healthy boundaries. A good boundary in a relationship is one that preserves the connection. A good boundary is based in, hey, I actually want to have a relationship with you. We need to do this differently so that it works well. A good boundary preserves your well being so that you don't burn out, you don't feel resentful, and you feel like you can stay in the relationship and keep showing up. And the good boundary helps promote a better dynamic in the relationship where the whole relationship works better for you and for the other person. Now, a healthy boundary often talks about what you can offer and possibly what you can't offer, how you want to be treated, and how to engage. When we don't have boundaries, relationships get imbalanced. Either I'll feel overextended, like I mentioned before, or I'll feel resentful. And so the whole point of holding a boundary is not to punish the other person. It's so that I can show up and I can keep showing up. Now, before I go into some strategies, I want to talk a little bit about guilt. And I am going to use DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, a strategy that I think is really helpful. So guilt is an emotion, and the way DBT looks at it is every emotion signals something, and every emotion can give you clues to what's going on and how you need to respond. In the case of guilt, it is a human emotion that signals you did something that caused a rupture, that hurt someone else, and you need to repair it, apologize, make amends, something like that. Okay? And so knowing that that's the purpose of that emotion is, hey, pay attention. Seems like you might have done something wrong with here and you need to make it right. Okay? DBT then says there's this great strategy from DBT called check the facts. And so when you feel guilt when you're holding a boundary, ask yourself, am I doing something wrong that I'm going to need to apologize for, or repair, or make amends in this relationship? And often, if we're holding a good boundary, we're not doing anything wrong. If we're saying, I can't help you today, but I can help you tomorrow, but I feel guilty for doing that, have we done anything wrong that we need to apologize about? So, note that certainly if you make a mistake or hurt someone, guilt will show up, and that means take some action. But often it'll show up, and we need to really look at it more carefully. Okay. I mentioned that ACT, or acceptance and commitment therapy, can also be helpful for holding boundaries. And I think ACT offers a great framework for this. One of the principles of ACT is working to understand and act from your values, using your values as a framework. Your values are what is meaningful to you. And in this case, it's what's meaningful in relationship. What kind of relationships do I want to have? How do I want to show up in relationships? Who do I want to be in relationships? And so values are really important here to find out, does this relationship move me toward what I want in a relationship? When I say yes to something or no to something in this relationship, am I moving toward my values or am I moving away from my values? And so you can start to think about with your relationships and evaluate them. Does this move me toward? Does this move me away? If it moves me away, what would I need to do to move me toward it? And so I often encourage people to start there. what kind of person do I want to be in this relationship? What kinds of relationships do I want? So for example, you might say, I want more authenticity in my relationships. I want to be more real and honest and be who I really am. Holding a boundary may be about communicating that a little more clearly about what's going on for you, for example. Okay, so I have another DBT skill that I want to talk about. And something I want to say before I do that is I don't think you have to have this expectation that you need to be able to go into a conversation and wing it. Like you're in a conversation with someone and all of a sudden they ask for something that feels uncomfortable. I don't think you're going to always be able to just on the fly say what's effective. This is where DBT is great because DBT offers strategies for coping with this kind of stuff and preparing for it. And one of my favorites is a skill called Dear Man, DEARMAN. And it's simply a list of phrases that will help you formulate a really good boundary. And so, again, I have this in my blog post, but the D stands for describe the situation. So when you go into a conversation, you can start by describing what's going on here, maybe what they're asking for and what's happening, expressing your feelings around it. Typically here, it's like, I'm struggling with this for some reason. Asserting your needs, that's the A. And here's what I need. R is reinforcing positive outcomes. I want to see how we can make this work. This relationship matters to me. I want it to work. Then the M is to be mindful of your goals. Like, what do you want in this relationship? What are you hoping for? The A is appear confident. So this is where rehearsing in advance can help. Being able to, hold some courage here and appear confident. And then the N is negotiating with the person. How can we make this work? So describe the situation, express your feelings, assert your needs, reinforce positive outcomes, be mindful of your goals in all of this, appear confident, and negotiate with the other person to make it work. Just a quick example. Let's see. Let's just say someone asked you to help them with something. It could be a work colleague, maybe. Let's go with that. I know you need help with this project, and I want to support you, and I also need to manage my workload. I can't review your work today, but I can tomorrow. How can we make that work? That would be an example that kind of hits all of the things. By the way, I do have in my article some scripts, just some more examples of how good boundaries can sound. One more skill I want to share in this video, and it's one in my work as a couples therapist, I do with couples, but I also do with individuals who are in relationships, is the idea of slowing down and pausing. Both ACT and DBT talk a lot about slowing down, pausing, and allowing yourself to act from your values, what matters, your needs, rather than your emotions. And so pausing is simply the idea of, okay, let me notice my experience right now. Let me see if I can recall my values, what matters, and let me see if I can formulate a more effective response. Now, pausing can look like a lot of different things. With some interactions with others, it can simply be take a breath, take a moment. Notice how you're feeling. Think about what you want here, what your values are, and then respond. Sometimes we cannot do that. Sometimes our emotions are too big. And so pausing could look like saying, I want to give you a response, but I'm going to need a minute or 10 minutes or an hour. And that point of that, it's like giving yourself a timeout. I need to let my emotions come down and let my brain kick back in and see how I want to respond. It could be, I can't talk about this right now. Let's schedule some time for later. Anything can be a pause if it allows you to not react from your emotions, but instead from your values. Okay, so I mentioned I have some scripts in my article that you can use, and just some ideas about how you can start doing this. If you have a relationship or relationships where you feel like some better boundaries could be helpful. One is to kind of think about a relationship and just start with checking your values. When you think about who you want to be in a relationship, the kind of relationships you want to have in your life, does this relationship feel like it's moving in that direction? And if not, where does it feel like it moves away? Is it from saying yes to something, from no to something? What feels like you would need to change to move it toward the kind of relationship you wanted? And as a reminder, I think it's important to start here because this isn't about, trying to punish the other person or react negatively to them. It's actually about, I actually want this relationship to be a good one. Okay? The next thing, and this is just therapy 101, experiment with small boundaries. Don't go for the big stuff yet. So like with my example earlier, if I don't feel like I'm comfortable yet saying, I can't help you today, can I help you tomorrow? Even experimenting with, I can't help you at this moment. Could I get back to you in an hour? That's a boundary and you get to practice that. Now, here's why experimenting is important, because I can almost guarantee you that when you hold a boundary, there's going to be some discomfort. Either you're going to feel discomfort or the other person is going to feel discomfort and it'll register. You'll feel their discomfort. Discomfort, again, going back to guilt, doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It's that something's changed in the relationship. I'm actually changing something and that feels uncomfortable. Self-compassion here can be really helpful. Self-compassion is simply noticing, I'm feeling uncomfortable right now. It makes sense that I'm feeling uncomfortable. Anybody would feel uncomfortable if they started changing things and asking for what they need. You haven't done anything wrong. So I want to name that. The final thing I want to leave you with is as you experiment with that, let's say you start small and start trying things in a relationship, you get to monitor and notice if the relationship actually starts to change. And the way therapists think about it is relationships a dynamic. It's he said, she said, or they said, they said. It's a back and forth. When you hold a boundary, you're changing that dynamic just a little bit, and you get to see how the other person responds and if it turns into something more positive. Does this relationship look like it's working better? And often when we hold good boundaries, the other person will respond in a more positive way. Now, if they don't, you got a whole other issue to deal with. But this is a good way to start to see, does holding a small boundary make this relationship work better? Does it feel like it works more like what I want relationships to look like? So that's just a few tips from ACT and DBT that I think can be helpful. If you have questions, let me know. And again, I have a lot more in my blog post.